Okay. Come on, Cassandra.
I try.
I don't know why. Okay.
All right, I'll call us to order. Hello, everyone. We're going to start introductions. Let's start with Wendy.
Wendy Adams, go to RSA.
Corey Shannon, Alpha Park.
Tina Murphy, Dunlap Public.
Jeannie Thomas, Farmington Area Public.
Anita Smith, Henderson County Public Library in Bigville.
Hugh McDonald, Washington District Library.
Dawn Smith, Illinois Ferry.
Rachel Hansen, Cuba Elementary and High School Library.
Courtney Young, Avon Public Library.
Claire Arnold, Kewanee Public.
Amy Poole, Kewanee Public.
Sarah Naismith, Guilford Public.
Kathy Grafton, Odell Public.
Carlos Gary, El Paso District Library. Linda Zimmerman, Griffin Public.
Roxy Clausen, Morton Public.
Elizabeth Wild, Henry Public. Kathy Wilson, Milton School.
Karen Winkler, Normal Public.
Julia Kogai, Callaghan, Normal Public.
Rebecca, Normal Public.
Eric Laughlin, Chadwell, Supervisor.
Nick Holta, Fond du Lac.
Cassandra Stokes, Peoria Public.
Anna Hudson, RSA.
Do you want that one?
Sure.
We have Abby at Brimfield, Amy at Carthage, Ann at Kewanee, Bobby at Quincy, Corey at Alpha Park, Dee at Midwest Central, Jamie at John Mosser, John at Normal, Julie at Clayton, Catherine at Carthage, Beth and Lori at Hayworth, Mary at Chatsworth, Melody at Galva, Michelle at Morrison Mary Wiley, Sandy at Chatsworth, Chantry Miller at Blessing Health, and Teresa at Fond du Lac. Thank you.
Corey's in two places at
Oh,
one
I'm sorry.
time.
Do I have to report?
Online.
Okay. Well, I checked that out.
All right.
All right. Turn it over to
There
Anna.
is somebody
Okay.
All right. That happens sometimes.
Okay, I'm going to start with the easy ones, the very quick circulation topics and reminders. The first one is just a couple of delivery things. One of them is, it came up in, users group last week, but just the reminder, if it hasn't come to you or to help remind your staff and cohorts, Rails delivery staff has asked that our member libraries start including the route number on the transit labels. We have reworked the membership list so that it prints portrait, which it kind of saves a little bit of paper, but so that the route numbers are right there. We do recommend that you do use this as an opportunity to kind of remind your staff that you should be consulting the membership list and actually looking at those library names rather than assuming that you know what the codes mean. Because we have Stark County, we have Scott County, we have Bushnell, we have Bushnell Prairie. It is awfully easy to think you know what a library is and not. I don't know if anyone remembers the great Bedford versus Bradford issue of about 7 years ago. It's awfully easy to do that and to, end up with a label that causes something to go astray. On the same note, if in doubt, when you're writing out delivery labels, please print. We have occasionally, you get one, someone has lovely handwriting, but somehow Quincy and Henry can look an awful lot alike. You'd be surprised. Just, encourage your cohorts and yourself to please write clearly, printing if in doubt. And then the other thing is, this just kind of came up kind of largely based on some holds that some of our staff have gotten. And it's been a wide range of libraries, so no one person is at fault. And this is something I should preface. The policy does not officially read not to do this. It's actually a cheat sheet covering receipt printers. But we've gotten a lot of holds labels and transit labels that do include both PID numbers and names. That is something that you can change in your receipt printer preferences. And for purposes of patron privacy, you know how often those labels stay in the book and flop out if it's got if you're at a library with a self-check and one with a PID number flops out, someone could pick that up, walk over to the self-check and check out with that. So that's just something that if your library does use those, it may be worth considering. Do you really, is that maybe something that you would be interested in changing? And then call me and I will help walk you through how to reset your receipt printer preferences, and maybe something to talk through with coworkers and such. Just something that kind of came to our attention, that a lot more libraries than I realized are including that information on there. Same thing on checkout slips. If you do receipts when people check out, it may be advisable to not include that information on there. So then similarly, another procedural thing, when billing for lost items, let me just pull up the workflows real quick. If you need to create a bill for a user and you need to bill for the complete cost of an item, and this is an item that is very definitely gone, like a patron calls to say, I left this book in the Dallas airport, it's never coming back, I would just like to pay for it. Please do not use the billing a user wizard. That's the one for if you needed to pay for damage to a case or some, small damage, not complete cost. You will want to use the mark item lost wizard. So was that, I feel like maybe there was something else on that I meant to bring up, but hit the high points at least. And if you do have questions about that, let me know. If you use the billing a user wizard and then they pay the whole total, Workflows kind of thinks it's damaged or something like that, and it won't, when they pay it, it won't come off their account properly, is basically why. But if you use the mark item lost wizard, when they pay it, it's done and resolved. So, questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a question on your face. Which
Okay, last week someone used the marked item loss
okay,
instead of the billing,
right.
and it still stayed on the person's
Ooh,
account. And every
intriguing.
time when they called back and they wanted to renew a whole bunch of things, somebody said, well,
Oh.
how about this other item? And they said, I paid for that already.
Interesting.
The
Would
bill
you?
did or the item did?
What?
Would you mind sending that to me so I
Yeah.
can dig into what was going on in that
Okay.
specific instance? Because I might be able to do some reports and see. Because in theory, it will sometimes show up under inactive checkouts, but that shouldn't be once it's paid. I did have something weird happen when I tried to bill someone, like use the mark item lost wizard and then billed them for zero. I was trying to like correct a bookkeeping error, but that was kind of a different situation. I haven't had it come up with the total. So yeah, if you send that to me, I'll investigate. If it didn't seem like it.
The other
came out
reason
right.
we
Yeah.
will sometimes use this other one is because 98% of the time they'll still come back
Right.
and they aren't truly lost. They just truly haven't looked.
Right.
For the item.
Well, and I guess in that situation, and this is maybe my recommendation and not a policy and not something, in that situation, that's when I kind of tend to go more extra renewal or something like that.
We do that too.
Because I do tend to think of once you're ready to bill, you want to be truly sure it's really gone. But I know sometimes patrons are just kind of wanting more resolution
Yeah, and
than
then
that.
2 days later they come back and want their money back.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I tend to do the thing, because I'm like, I guarantee you, as soon as I bill you for it, you're going to find it tomorrow. And if it is your item, you do have that leeway to grant that extra renewal. It's only if it's someone else's. But again, we do encourage that, if you're in that situation and it's someone else's item, you can call the owning library to say, is it okay to do an extra renewal? Here's the situation. They might not say yes, but we do encourage that communication. So, but yeah, I'm interested in that one that seemed like it didn't come off right. I'll dig into that for you and see what I can find out. Sorry, that's probably not a terribly satisfying answer right at this
No, that's
moment,
fine.
but I would be curious to see what happened.
The mark item loss, if you use
Yeah.
the mark item loss wizard, that wouldn't generate an actual bill for like an overuse style bill?
Right,
Correct.
because those are the ones that are coming from the system as it just
Unless you did it.
automatically
If you
changes.
did it at 3 o'clock in the morning though,
Oh.
yes. Because
Oh.
then the bill would still be generated the same day, the actual notice. The notices run for bills that were created for lost items that day. So the report runs that marks things lost as they should be, and then the actual notice happens. So if you were at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Bill somebody at 3
At
o'clock.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Marked it lost, then it would be, the bill would be created that same day before the report ran at 5 or 6 or whatever.
Oh, okay.
The main time I would use that is it was when we're like dealing with a house fire type situation or
Okay,
something where
yeah.
we need to submit a bill for insurance,
That makes sense. Okay.
but that won't solve it.
Okay. All right, that's all for the easy stuff. I did print copies of the policies, which are, if you did not grab one, they are on the table, but at the back. I think we've kind of decided that we would like to spare you all the agony of reading the policies out loud. So if you want to grab your own copy, I don't know, which one should we start with? Leadership of the committee.
What do you feel?
Let's start in order.
Let me pull them up for the online folks here.
Notice,
Not this one.
patron notification.
Okay, hang on. Let me get them pulled up. Yeah, they're on that table with the agenda. So, all right. Okay. Patron notification and building policy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and that one kind of includes most of the damaged materials thing, so that works. All right. Let's just start. Well, okay, I'll start. This is the notification and billing policy for transited RSA member library items. The big part of the difference, this is a policy that has existed. I've seen it, I think it's currently filed under something like notification and billing policy for extended checkout items or something like that. But this was basically an existing policy. The large change is the addition of number 3 that deals with damaged items. So this kind of originated from the realization that that libraries needed something to go to in order to determine how to deal with either an item that has been returned and is damaged, or an item that you have received in delivery and it has damage, and you want to account for that before you let it circulate, or if it was returned to you and you can't tell when the damage happened, but it needs to go to another hold or something like that. So, anyone from the committee want to chime in about? Okay.
Well, like one of the big pushes that we were looking at is making sure that we do the Circ notes and that we try to standardize that, like the 3AI area. And on the notes, making sure that you document what damage was there, date it, initial it, put your library name.
And one hangup that we have run into, if this group votes to pass this policy along to the users group, I'm thinking that it will involve the creation of some cheat sheets. Because one issue that comes with the Circ note, which we would like, we've talked about it in the subcommittee and a little bit in this committee, that we want a note both physically on the item so that there's something, that you see right away when you pick it up. But, things happen in delivery. If you're checking it out to a patron, they may take the Post-it note off because they want to see the cover image better. Whatever it is, notes get lost. So we felt the need to have something in workflows that's going to be attached to that item record. The only solution to that really is a Circ note, because we talked about maybe doing it as a patron note on that account, but then as soon as you discharge it from their account and it goes to someone else, that note is gone, basically. So, it's not gone, it's just clinging to the patron account and not helping you in terms of what happened to the item. The issue, of course, that I imagine is probably in most of your minds is my Circ user does not have access to the edit item wizard, which is the one that you need in order to create a Circ note. That may not be a problem everywhere if you are using your own, logins, if you're using a tech login or something like that. This may not be an issue for you, but for those of you who it is, we have tried to come up with a couple of solutions that will be covered in cheat sheets. Would you like me to go into those?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, thank you. One of those is, this will not help on adding Circ notes to other libraries' items, but it will help you in terms of adding Circ notes to your own items, is to create access to the edit item wizard with an override code. That we would give to probably directors to distribute to staff they feel need access to it. Because the edit item wizard also gives you access to changing item categories. We don't want to disperse it to all staff willy-nilly, but you know, my idea would that at least one person in the Circ department has this access. Then for other items that if you need to add a Circ note to an item that is not your library's, oddly enough, you cannot do it through the edit item wizard, but you can do it through the right-click functions. In which case you would need to have either a cataloger, login, or a higher level of access. So if you do have another library's item that you need to add a Circ note to, you would need to either pass it along to someone in your library who does have access to that wizard, or contact the owning library and ask them to do it, which is why I suspect, regardless, we may continue with that option of adding the override access to the edit item wizard, because if we do this, you may be getting more requests from other libraries to add a Circ note or something like that. One thing we do want to stress is that communication between the libraries. If you get something damaged and you're in doubt about whether you should let it go out, you should probably call the owning library and say, hi, I got this, the spine is totally busted, pages are falling out. Do you want me to circulate it or do you want me to send it back to you? You know, that may be really ultimately the safest thing for your patrons. But the goal really is just to kind of improve documentation on this so that patrons aren't getting billed for things that aren't their fault. And unfortunately, we kind of ended up feeling like if we didn't create some mechanism of adding these notes, kind of the alternative is to say, if you get something with any damage, even if in your mind it's minor, it might not be minor in the mind of the owning library, and you're almost sending back everything you get, even if it's just scribbles on page 67, you know, just to protect your patrons. And that I don't think is really the route we want to take, which is kind of why we are trying to offer these alternatives. And we know that it may be that adding the Circ node may create a little bit of a burden, or at least a new process that you may need to decide on internally what's going to work. But that I still feel like, I personally feel like that's probably slightly preferable, but that is just me, and I am not a member library. So, thoughts, comments, questions, concerns about that or about any other part of the policy? Go for it.
Yeah.
No, please.
Would you have to make a Circ note? Okay, we sometimes, and I'm sure some of the area libraries are the same way, Fond du Lac and Illinois Prairie, we get people dumping off tons of books, especially when summer reading for other libraries.
Right.
They may check them out at other libraries. We don't know what kind of condition they went out. Do I have to put a Circ note on all those? Usually I just put a sticky note saying, I'm not sure this was checked out at your library. I'm not sure if our patron ruined it or if it went out that way.
Right.
Would I have to go into each record and do that?
In that situation, if you've got a bunch from the same patron and they're all kind of funny, then that might be a time that doing a note on the patron account might make sense. And at the end of the day, no matter how specific we try to get in terms of the policy about what damage is too much damage, I kind of feel like library staff has a pretty good handle on what is normal wear and tear versus what is damage. And I don't know if that's too fuzzy or too, you know, non-specific for the purposes of this conversation. But yeah, if you get a ton of stuff, everything from a patron has some form of damage, and they're not all old books or, you know, well, come on.
If the patron, okay, say they go to Fond du Lac,
Right.
and they check it out on their self-check.
Right.
I don't know if it went out with
Right.
water damage
Right.
prior to my patron.
And I guess in a way the ideal is that Fond du Lac has since noted that before. You know, one positive outcome I would hope would come out of this policy would be that people also get better about noting damage internally as well. You know, book returned with Hawaiian punch stain, 81618, Anna at PPL North, things like that, that it would promote libraries internally to do their own sort of noting. And if that note is, as a lot of people do, pencil writing along the spine of the book, and it's your item, that's not going to come off like a Post-it note is. But we can't do that on other libraries things, which is why we said Post-it note. If it's already noted, if you have a mechanism for doing that internally, that will stay definitely with the book. I don't want it to be super burdensome, but I do want, again, I feel like I'm talking too much rather than leaving it to y'all, but please chime in if I'm misrepresenting any of these
If we don't like what you're
conversations.
saying, we'll chime in.
But, just to try to balance that concern of not making it super burdensome for libraries, but also making sure that patrons are protected and not being billed. I mean, there's some, I've seen damage that I wouldn't dream of billing a patron for, but the owning library has wanted me to bill the patron. So, yeah, I hate to say it's probably your own best judgment on that situation.
In the situation you're talking about, what we do at least, we usually try to, before we send it back, before we put notes or anything, we try to call the home library, the owning library, and let them know, try to describe the damage and ask them if they want it sent to them. Send them if they want it sent back, if they want us to charge, what do they want us to do in that. I know in this we were mainly looking at, I know a lot of the discussion was what happens when we are emptying the route and an item is damaged before it gets to the patron, and then what happens when the patron brings it in damaged. I don't know if we addressed completely the specific of it was checked out at Peoria or returned to Fond du Lac and we found the damage.
Because you don't know if your patron did it or if they
Right.
checked it out and it's already like that. So I guess what I'm saying is, besides the Post-it note, do I need to make a note in the item record? If it's water
I would say
damage?
it would be the ideal, would be to make the note in the item record. I know probably common practice is to send it back with a note of returned here this date with water damage, previous patron PID was blah, and
But
I would-
I actually have a staff member that'll bring me stuff prior
Right.
to checking it in and say, can you see where this was checked out first?
right,
Because then I can see if it was checked out at our library or somewhere
right,
else.
and somewhere else, yeah.
Does that fall under 3C?
Or 3B, item damaged by patron. I mean, because even in this situation, we don't know if it was that patron, but it's been returned damaged,
Yeah,
I'd
okay.
say. So that would be 3B. So what we've recommended in the policy is call the item owning library to discuss the damage and see what they would like you to do. And I would say that is best practice. And I guess my thing would be, I would say if in doubt, because you're probably not looking at every item, you're not looking at scuffed corners and things like that, normal wear and tear. This is the ones that are genuinely more damaged that have caught your eye. But, oh yeah, chewed corners.
You're talking about extremely.
I'm talking
So
about
if it's-
not normal wear and tear, not normal wear and
If
tear.
it's been
Damage.
dropped in the tub and dragged
Yeah,
out, but you don't know who did it.
It's got water damage, it's got pin scribbles, it's,
Okay.
not your normal, the corner is slightly worn, or even like the cracked spine and it's a book that's 30 years old,
Right.
That's what I mean when I say I think staff probably has pretty good judgment on what is and is not normal. Like, this has dog bite marks in it. This has been gnawed on by a hamster. This has salami in the cover.
Raw bacon is bookmark.
Yeah, bacon bookmarks. The truly, and that is what this is intended. This is intended to address damage, not wear and tear. But
When we've been writing all these policies, one of the big things we've been trying to focus on is which library should be talking to the patron and things of that nature. We tend to, without getting too far into the weeds, have the library where the item was checked out at be the person to contact the patron. So like the checkout library would talk to the item owning library to see what they need to do, but then because like if it's like a Galva patron and a Galva library and I'm calling them, they're like, why is Fond du Lac? I've never gone to Fond du Lac. They don't think about it that way. It gets really in the weeds if it's a Peoria item that was checked out at Dunlap but returned to Fond du Lac. then it's the argument, does
And
Dunlap
they're
or Fond du
paid.
Lac? Yeah.
And then they're on.
So then it's like, who makes more sense, Dunlap or Fond du Lac to call? You know, if where the item was returned or was checked out, that gets a little bit dicey, but the main overall thing is trying to figure out who the most logical, so like I don't necessarily even send the books back to the item-owning library until I've dealt with it completely. If I'm the returning library, the checkout library, because the patrons should have no idea why the other library would contact.
Well, and that is something we got into.
It's in here a little bit.
Yeah, with if a patron pays for a damaged item, or if you get to the point where you are definitely billing them for the full replacement cost of the item, that we're asking that either it stay at the checkout library, or, you know, if it's already made it all the way back to the owning library, that it be sent to the checkout library. That way, when the patron pays for it, you know, or wants to contest it or whatever, they can review the damage, and then if they pay for it, they can, you know, have it. But that, you know, that library, the one that's kind of creating the bill, should end up being the one holding the item, sort of, basically. So, but yeah. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Any other questions about that aspect of the policy? Thoughts online? Any thoughts or concerns about that aspect of the policy? The other part of this that I do want to bring up is 4A, the paying for the item. Okay. Oh, thank you. Sorry, online folks, let me scroll. Okay. Okay, so the way the policy was previously written, right? Okay. If I'm at Peoria and a patron has lost or damaged a Galva book, and they come in and they want to pay the fine, I have them pay with a check or money order, and under the old policy, I would not enter the payment in workflows. I would, you know, accept the check, give them a receipt, whatever, add a note saying I'd taken the payment, and then override so that they could check out. But with self-check, with ProPay, and online bill pay, and all those other ways that the patron can come to your library and pay for an item without you even knowing they've done it, we'd had the discussion of it may no longer make sense to have this delay in entering the payment in workflows. We did leave it that you do not discharge the item, but you add a note saying that you've accepted the payment, and you go ahead and mark it as paid, you know, in workflows and the method of payment. One idea that was brought up, thank you, was that we may look into creating a payment type to reflect this. This way, if you are doing reports to track payments, you can exclude payments for other libraries stuff, you know, that you may have taken. That way you're not seeing money that you're not ultimately keeping, you know. So if you do use workflows reports for any part of your accounting, that may help. Am I representing all that right? I feel like it's been a while since we talked about that in the subcommittee, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and in talking to libraries, you know, when receiving payments, people weren't like waiting for the check to clear to mark it as paid anyway. So the item owning library, though, once they get that payment, they do still need to discharge the item from the patron's account and all of that. And so, any thoughts on that?
Does it ping the bill in the system?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake.
No.
I think it turns it to an inactive checkout or something like that. Is that right?
No,
No, it's still.
if you, by paying the bill, it only pays the bill. It does not actually discharge the item off technically off the patron's account. You don't see it under checkout unless you look at those inactive.
Right, like an inactive.
So it moves it to inactive checkout.
Or
It's already
or
moved to an
something.
inactive
Or like
checkout
a-
once it's gone to lost.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's still considered a checked out item until it's discharged. You can't remove the item.
Yeah.
It'll tell you it's still charged.
Yeah, you won't see it under checkouts. It won't be like accruing fines or going for a late date, but it's still like technically there.
Yeah.
So you have to discharge it to remove it.
What if the owning library forgets to discharge it and it goes into a lost item and creates
It won't
It
go
won't
lost again.
Yeah, it won't go
No.
lost
But
again.
they can't remove the item until it's discharged. And if you ran a report, it would still show as charged to the patron.
Will the patron be able to see that it's charged to them still in any way,
No.
shape, or
No.
form?
No.
Okay. Will it affect their total checkouts?
That I'm not sure.
You know,
Can
I have not checked that.
Yeah, that's something
No.
that, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't count
I
towards
don't
the
think
checkout
I've
if
ever
it's
looked at
inactive.
the
I've never looked at
checkout
that.
area before.
Yeah, I don't know if it affects that
It's weird,
counter.
weird stuff.
I mean, most of those counters are pretty high.
Yes. Elizabeth.
Okay, so I'm reading A, in which, unless I'm really missing it, it doesn't ever say pay the bill.
And that's entirely possible that we have talked about this so much that we missed a key sentence. So
We didn't actually change the policy from the way that it used to be. We discussed, why don't we go ahead and allow the receiving library to receive the money and pay the bill, but we didn't actually change, because that's the way it was originally written, was
yeah.
that you didn't, because of the check clearing thing. But
But we wanted to talk about it.
yeah,
Okay, yeah,
because of
so-
pro-pay and things like
Okay.
that, yeah, especially.
Thank y'all. My memory is.
There's a lot to this policy.
I know, there's a lot. So how do you feel about that aspect of it? Does anyone have a problem with permitting the payment to go ahead and be paid in workflows?
And then obviously we would send the check on to fund.
Right.
Right.
And we
Along
talked,
with the item information, so they'll know to discharge it when
Right.
they
So
get the
then you
check.
can delete it.
Right.
right.
And
And that-
if the person's taking the book, we just, it can
Right,
still follow
right.
the chain.
Yeah,
I mean, the only awkwardness is if the check bounces, but then that's gonna be awkward. It's always gonna be awkward in some fashion if the check bounces. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
jump through a bunch of hoops.
so should I go ahead and change that wording, or should we say pending addition of that wording? What we could do, I should have said this at the beginning, I completely forgot. The timing of these meetings and part of the weirdness of this. We just had users group last week. So if this committee votes to pass these policies onto users group, the next users group meeting is not till August 1st, which, as you heard, is the strategic plan member summit. The odds of getting any discussion and voting done during that meeting are not, it's simply not going to happen. What we asked at the last users group meeting was, depending on how our discussion today goes, if we do vote to pass these policies along to the users group, we would do maybe some sort of online opinion taking, polling, feedback mechanism, and then try just kind of this time, because of strange scheduling circumstances, an online vote for users group. Which means that we will be, posting and reviewing these and possibly getting more feedback and wording changes. How would you feel about, for today, me jotting down some wording on that, which I will read aloud to you, I'm sorry, for that point 4A, reflecting that we're actually going to pay the bill in workflows. And then you can vote kind of assuming this wording is added, assuming this cheat sheet is created, that sort of thing. Are y'all okay with that okay. Elizabeth?
I think you need it also in C,
Okay.
in case they pay this with cash. I know that you need to write it, so the library would have to write a check then to mail it.
Okay, so include a note with the payment, blah, 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 put a note on, okay. So we say, do not discharge the item. How about in that parentheses where we say, do not discharge the item, we'll say, mark bill paid in workflows, but do not discharge the item. Does that sound reasonable as wording? And that will.
You just say pay bill.
Sure, pay bill in workflows.
Mark the bill, make it sound as though there's some kind of a process.
Pay-
A wizard for marking
Yes,
bills.
yeah.
Like I'm
This is true.
looking for a right
Pay-
click
yeah.
function.
Pay bill in
Yeah.
workflows, but
Can
do
I
not.
ask this, I don't know if I'm sounding this right.
No, go for it.
Say I have Peoria's book, it's damaged, they've paid for it. Don't I have to discharge it to get a transit slip to send on?
You don't have to have a transit book to put it in.
Yeah, you can just make out the
Yeah,
delivery
in-
label,
in those
I would say in that
instances, I
And
situation.
just write damage or pay on
Okay,
the
Right.
slip.
just send it.
So-
There's a lot of times where like the library who had the item doesn't put down all the information that I want for my lost paperwork. So, and like if they've discharged it, sometimes you have to jump through a lot more hoops to find some of that
Right.
information. So
Yeah.
I like to never to be discharged and I just send it.
And then doing that means that we can eliminate the sentence that reads, once the payment has been received at the payment library, the library staff will override the block, because by paying it, there won't be a block anymore. So I will take that sentence out. Okay, so just to review, I'm going to read point A. So check or money order, made out to item owning library and sent through mail, not through delivery. Include a note with payment stating the amount is for a lost or damaged item, including processing and or referral fees generated by workflows and the patron's name and library account number. Put a note on the patron's account that item has been paid. Pay bill and workflows, but do not discharge the item. It is in parentheses in bold. When the item owning library gets the check, it is their responsibility to discharge the item and remove the note from the patron's account. If the check does not clear or a replacement item is not acceptable, then the item owning library will notify the patron's library to block the user's account. Yes?
Why is replacement item in the list?
Because it was part of the old, that should have been taken out.
Thank you.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
where?
The
At the
part
end.
about
Because you have
the
a whole nother paragraph.
order
about
replacement
going-
item is not.
Okay, yeah, if the
Because that
check
was
does
part
not.
of the old, the way
Yeah,
the
yeah,
old
yeah, okay.
wording was.
Thank you. If the check does not clear, then the item owning library will notify the patron's library to block the user's account. Okay, so then under other payment types, should we just do the same thing? Put a note on the patron's account that item has been paid, and then parentheses, do not pay bill and workflows, but do not discharge the item, basically? Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna cause trouble with one.
Hey, go for
How do
it.
you know in self-check that they paid it to put a note on their record?
Well, that's the problem, is you don't.
Okay.
Which is part of why we were kind of looking at this point in the policy anyway. Because, if they pay it through self-check, you're not waiting to mark the bill paid.
Right.
Anyway, there may be a report you could run, but,
I don't have self-check.
Well,
right.
at
but,
Peoria,
yeah,
I get every transaction that is done at all of the Peoria Public Library self-checks.
I don't
Come
think
to my
anything-
email.
I don't think we get the option at ours.
Yeah, so I have to go through each one of those payments. And then I send HR the paperwork to send the check to whatever library that the item
Okay.
belongs to. So, yeah, I
So-
get
So you don't
all
know.
those
There's no
transactions.
elegant solution for this.
No, yeah, so you won't know at the time, but if you do
I don't have
reporting or
self-check.
something
I
after,
don't
yeah.
have it.
Okay. So then on replacement items, since someone brought it up, we do have that same do not discharge item. On replacement items, do we want to take the same route with replacement items? As in marking the bill as paid? Anyone? I would be a hair more reluctant on that one.
There is in the whole list, there is a replace payment type. Just saying.
Right.
The bad thing about that is what if you don't ask the library and you send a report
Right.
and the
That's
library
the
doesn't
thing.
accept replacement?
Well, and the policy does say replacement items can only be accepted after contacting the item owning library to verify that they will accept a replacement and any requirements for the replacement item. If item owning library approves the replacement item, then the replacement item may be sent through delivery. Put a note on the patron's account that the item has been replaced. So I guess if you've talked to the item owning library, then you mark it as paid. What about processing fees? Sorry. Some of that just occurred to me. I apologize. Elizabeth?
This is just a clarity at the last.
Go for it.
Of that paragraph has stuff about checks.
Oh, yeah. That's, unnecessary. Yeah. Thank you.
You'll find out that then people will be.
You want to join the subcommittee, Elizabeth? Yeah, and once the item has been, it does say when the item owning library gets the replacement, they will discharge the original item, remove the fine, and note. Once the item has been paid, the patron may check out items. We should probably change the wording either way to once the replacement has been accepted.
I guess the reasoning though behind paying the bill when it's received,
Mhm.
so for replacement is basically paying the bill.
Right.
Was to not block other content, like
Right.
electronic content or using computers somewhere, that kind
Right.
of thing. So I think it makes more sense to stay consistent.
Yeah.
And, the goal is to get that off the patron's account because they have technically paid with the replacement.
Right.
It should be done where it's received.
Right. And but I think I will change that, only be accepted after contacting the item owning library. I think I will bold that, maybe underline it and put asterisks around it. But that, assuming that step has been followed, are we comfortable with marking that space? Cool. Okay.
So if it goes into that inactive checkout we've been talking about, and it's a replacement copy, when I get the replacement, I put the new I can discharge, I'll be able to easily discharge the item, put a new barcode number, and then we're good to go. There won't be any system issue.
As long as you discharge it.
I think we have to change 5 now if we're doing that.
Yep.
If we're
Okay, so what about 5 do we want to change?
what was it? I thought there was in here something about,
The last sentence.
Inform the patron that the bill was made on. We can just take it out pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you mentioned process fee with the replacement item, we have done it before, like if you have a DVD and we have to lock the case and all that
Right,
stuff.
right.
And they may replace it, but we may tell them we need to put a processing fee on, so
Right.
we'll go into that
And
user and just put and if it's paid, you're gonna be able to see they paid it instead of
Right.
a note all the time.
right. Thoughts?
But isn't 5 more if they haven't paid, isn't it? It's just-
Yeah, 5 is more if they're just inquiring about
Right.
why I have a bill. But yeah, if you were talking about in general, are all the notes necessary because you're going to be able to see paid bills under their
You
account?
can see where they pay them and the date they pay them.
Well, I think in this context, it was more to reflect, I've accepted this payment here on this date, it's on its way to you, I think was some of the idea of being, in the original conception, it was because you weren't paying the bill, and so you had the note saying, yes, it's paid, that's why I'm overriding. So yeah.
I was gonna say, there are reports that can tell you
Right,
what the payment library was,
right,
and that's how I get
Right.
when I run my finance against. I say, I care what was paid in Henry, I don't care what my patron paid anywhere else.
So do y'all lean toward given that now we're paying it immediately, removing the stuff about adding the notes? Does anyone see a pressing reason we should keep those notes? Okay, so we will take out basically the include a note with payment stating for there's a lost or damaged item, or basically.
Include a note right after the first bowl here.
Okay, now, okay.
You're talking about just getting rid of the note on the patrons.
Right,
when
right.
the item has been paid.
So in that light, do we need to get any more specific? I'm kind of devil's advocating here, yeah.
Okay, and under 5,
Mm-hmm.
I would, instead of removing the whole lesson,
Mm-hmm.
put the period after paid. Because it is still a valid point.
Right,
The
that
bill
it
was
ain't going nowhere till you pay it.
Arrangements have been made.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because in that context, the item has not been returned yet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, so with this and with eliminating the note, do we need, this is, like I said, this is kind of me being a little bit of devil's advocate, to get specific about what information is included with the check when you're mailing it, or with the payment when you're mailing it? Go for it.
Usually when I send a check to another library, I will print the screen
Yeah.
with the patron's information on it. I'll also print a screen with the library's item information on it and send both, so they have a record of the item number,
Right.
what the information was, who my patron was, because you can't read everybody's writing.
Right. I think that's a good solution. Should I word that? Or just say somehow send complete and legible information about patron info and item? Should we create a form like the reciprocal patron deletion form?
Because then you're still handwriting.
You're still having to write it, yeah, and then it kind of just looks, yeah. Okay, so check or money order made out to item owning library, including all relevant patron and item information.
Yeah.
The good news is one of the other policies is basically this part. It's just pulled out into its own thing. Okay. And then I'm going to make a new sentence that says send payment through the mail, not through delivery. Because otherwise that's unwieldy. Okay, we've made a lot of edits to that one, so I'm going to read it aloud as it all turns out. Oh, did someone have something
Do
else?
you have something, Elizabeth?
I'm just a little confused by number 8.
Okay.
Oh,
I that may be like
Okay, well, let me
Yeah.
read 4A through with all those edits, and then we'll look at number 8. Okay, check or money order payment. Made out to item owning library, including all relevant patron and item info. Send payment through mail, not through delivery. Pay bill in workflows, but do not discharge item. When the item owning library gets the check, it is their responsibility to discharge the item and remove the note. We can take that out. This is why we edit. Okay. Okay. It is their responsibility to discharge the item. If the check does not clear, then the item owning library will notify the patron's library to block the user's account. We good? Okay, so then that new wording will transfer where relevant to the other payment types and to replacement items. There may be a couple of points with the notes that are similar. Are there any of those like with, well, not so much that, with replacement items, that is the one that still mentions, no, it doesn't mention notes. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Never mind. Oh, it does say put a note on the patron's account. Do we want to go ahead and take that off with replacement items as well? Or do we want to leave that because that's a slightly different situation? Because if you're going to be marking the bill as paid, do you want to specify that it was paid via replacement rather than via payment? Or should we just use the replacement payment type? Thoughts, feelings, concerns?
I would say use the replacement.
Payment type?
Yeah.
Okay,
We'd have to make sure that people don't have that payment type hidden anymore.
yeah.
Oh.
So I don't know if you put that, I don't know if you put that in the
How about-
mandatory payment
Yeah.
types list.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we can try to make that as a mandatory.
Or we could say use replacement payment type to mark bill paid or add a note.
Yeah.
Or we could say use replacement type, if you don't have it,
Contact RSA. There you go.
Well, can you guys just like globally restore that back to everyone's payment types?
I don't know how. I don't know if we have to do that individually or not. We'll have to investigate that a little bit.
Can you
If we want-
forcibly put the replacement payment type back on everybody's account, like as a batch thing, or?
Not as a batch thing, but someone could manually put it back on anyone who's been taken off of, yeah.
That seems painful.
I don't have a good read on how many libraries took it out.
Well, I mean, there's like 300, there's like 200
There's
libraries.
like 200 of us, but I don't know how many people have it off. I don't know.
I don't know that we've done a lot of the payment.
The custom-
customization.
yeah.
And I don't know how often it would come up.
Right.
Lots of
It-
libraries might not need it.
You'd have to go
Right.
each one to look, but.
I think I'll say either mark payment type as replaced or put a note for now. And if we revisit the policy in a couple of years and we've forcibly restored it for everyone, but at least we have a mechanism for if libraries don't have it included. Okay.
If we have something online.
no change, but there is, the discussion on the chat is just that hopefully a new copy of this will go out because following.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I am definitely going to say, after this meeting, you know, before anything else, I'm gonna send kind of a copy of, you know, I mean, I guess if we don't vote past it, then it's all moot, and I might not, but I will probably post, well, yeah, regardless, after this meeting, I will incorporate all of these edits into a new document, and I'll post them under the documents for this meeting on the website. So, okay, so number 8 was, where'd Elizabeth go? There you are. Okay, what was your question about number 8? Which reads, item owning library shall contact checkout library before removing a lost or damaged item from a patron's account.
I'm just kind of wondering when this comes into play.
That would,
When the item owning library wants to remove.
yeah.
Remove the item and the bill hasn't been paid.
Yeah, so like if a patron never pays for it and they're kind of cleaning up their database and they're like, this item has been lost for 10 years, it's never coming back, I want to go ahead and delete it. And then you would maybe be adding a manual bill or something if someone really still wanted to do it, yeah. So that's when that would come into play.
I have a list for Corey to send to him at Alpha Park. Some patrons I found from 2008.
Okay, so, all right.
All right.
I feel like this part is probably y'all. Well,
All right.
I vote, it is almost 3. So, do you want to see if there's a vote on that one?
Yeah, we can. Go
I
ahead
feel like
and go
that's,
for it.
I feel like that's y'all's part.
All right, so we want to get a vote on notification and billing
Oh,
policy.
I have one more thing
Go for it.
just on page 1.
Okay,
3A, it says severe damage is defined as physical damage to an item. A
yeah,
half-inch tear on one page of an 800-page book is
Is
physical
still
damage,
physical
but it's
damage.
not severe damage.
Should we say substantial physical damage? Does that work
That makes
better?
more sense.
Or, yeah, severe physical damage?
Or immediately noticeable physical damage. I mean, a half-inch tear in an 800-page book, unless I'm
Right.
racing through it.
Yeah, this was something we went around a lot in the subcommittee, is how specific should we,
A chunk
Yeah.
that's kind of loose, you see that right away.
right. How about severe and immediately apparent physical damage to an item? Okay. Okay. Physical damage to an item or a case or missing components. I saw one, I don't know, Swan or Prairie Cat, someone has a policy where they had like a whole flow chart of like types of item damage, and I was just like, it was kind of smart, but it also kind of gave me a heart attack, because I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine trying to come up with something like that. But I think that kind of reflects what we're aiming for, is that this is big deal damage, not, you know, run-of-the-mill stuff. Okay, any other concerns, questions? Anyone in the chat have anything?
Go right in.
Go for it.
So if somebody pays me for an item and then they return it 2 or 3 days later, if I want to refund them, I can, but I don't have to? Or do I absolutely not? This makes it sound like absolutely
This
not.
makes it, I would say that the intent of this is more that if you are the checkout library and a patron has paid for it and you have sent the money on to the owning library, and then the patron comes back a week later and says, I've got it now, I need my money back, don't contact the owning library expecting your money back. So if it's your item and you're taking the payment and you want to make that internal decision,
Okay.
I would say that's probably still acceptable. This is more, don't make that decision for another library, you know?
And usually when they're taking care of that right then and there, I tell them, no refund. So if you want me to renew it one more time, so you could, whatever, yeah, but we don't refund at all.
I mean, there's always exceptions. You could always call, I don't know if you think an exception, you could always call our owning library and ask, like, hey, I know I'm not supposed to, but do you want me to or not?
Right, or,
Some
yeah, you
libraries
can
are
call
cool,
and confirm.
you know, but
Yeah,
Because we had somebody do that to us the other day, and
was it a transit or your own item?
it was our item,
Mhm.
and they had just found it and brought it back. Well, just that day, we got the replacement. but,
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, and I'd say,
So that, in that case, we didn't refund. but
right, but
had we
normally
not,
you would,
we might have.
yeah. And
Just to get our item back fully cataloged and.
right,
and marked and everything.
you've already done all that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and,
So that's just to cover our,
yeah, kind of,
okay.
yeah. It's kind of like the, renewal limits, like if it's your item and you decide you want to give it that extra renewal,
Right.
that's fine. If it's someone else's, you should call and check with them.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, how do y'all do it? Do you
Pretty
probably,
fast and loose
do you do
lately,
a
but-
motion to vote and then have a second and then, vote? I don't know.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay. Can I get a motion to accept notification and billing policies?
Okay,
I'll second.
okay.
Okay.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
Kim,
Kim, and then,
Sarah,
thank you, Sarah.
Okay.
all right.
Thank y'all for that. Okay.
All
And
right.
so,
The new,
well, no, we still have to vote.
Oh.
All in favor, say.
all in favor, online was okay with?
Well, we were just, we moved and reseconded,
Yes.
so.
Okay.
Okay.
All in
No one-
favor?
Okay.
Any nays? All right,
Okay, well, let's check online.
approved.
Okay, two yeses online, any nays online? Okay, so, it's 3:00,
Oh,
yeah.
We don't have
What
time
do
to
we
vote,
wanna
though.
do?
Like,
No, well,
the receipt of damaged material
It's
policy is
basically-
basically the
is
same thing.
we
incorporated.
just did.
We
Okay.
can go through that quickly, probably.
Yeah, so receipt of damaged material policy is basically number 3 from notification and billing policy. The reason, basically, this was kind of, I think, where we started, was we do need a policy for this. And then we started looking at the notification and billing policy, which was pre-existing, and had said, refer to this policy. We're kind of trying to make it so that policies don't refer to other policies. That way, when you're looking at a policy, you see all the info you have. So that's why it's 2 separate policies that are really basically the same. So, and that's really just points 3, A through C. So assuming we make the same changes, that we've discussed in this meeting and that they match. Do you want to introduce a motion to
Oh,
vote?
all right. All right. Elizabeth,
Elizabeth and Rob. Okay. Does anyone want any more time to read it or? Okay, cool, okay.
The only big difference between this and the other one, I think, no, never mind, the other one does talk about the D1500 numbers too.
Okay.
So,
you need the A in there? We have to-
Yeah, well, yeah, we still have to vote.
All right, so can I get the agreement to accept the damaged material policy? Yay? Yay or nay?
Okay, any nays?
All right.
Okay, we did 2. Good job, everybody. All right, so I guess we will probably, unless y'all want to introduce a motion to stay long. It's short, but look at it. Look at what's contained in it.
yeah, there's gonna be.
I'm
There's gonna be some
expecting,
discussion
I'm
on this
expecting
one.
lively discussion on this one.
And my-
Specifically, point 4.
Yeah.
So I would say if you want to extend it, you may want to do a motion to.
But do we need to have a motion to
I don't,
table it
I have
till
no
next
idea.
meeting?
I don't know how this
We want
works.
to do with this part.
Well, but,
But you're just talking overdue fines, you're not talking damage,
Yes,
you're not
yes.
talking loss.
Yeah, that's
No, but we're
fine.
talking about some libraries forgiving all fines for new patrons coming to libraries. Is what this policy is talking about.
So if a Peoria patron comes to Washington and they move to Washington and they want to get a card and they owe us $30, you can cancel that fine.
Late fees only.
Late fees only.
Late fees.
Late fees only. And with the reminder that fees stay at the library, their fines stay at the library they're paid at, unlike bills which are sent to the voting library.
So they gotta pay
But they're
their
not
money, right,
collections.
before I can give them.
No,
a
you can cancel it or accept
You-
it, but
you
it
can have
stays
your
That's
with
own
what,
you.
that's what
That's
this
why
policy
we,
is trying to say.
So we suck up $30, because we took their card, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
the policy as it's stated says that if a patron from another library comes to your library, you can put in place whatever policy you think is best and fair in order to deal with their pre-existing fines. So your policy could be, they must resolve them according to the old library's rules. It could be, my fine block limit is now your fine block limit, resolve it according to that. It could be, you're a new patron, we're starting you off with a clean slate no matter what. It could be, you have to pay everything. It's basically how you as a library deal with incoming patrons is according to your own policy.
Instead of the current policy, which is
Which
the
is-
$5, if you have more than $5 in fines, you have to pay for them or take care of them before you can get a new card.
But
But
for
fine.
collections, you can't do collections.
Right, no,
Yeah, no
and
collections,
that would
no
be loss, no
no
loss,
damage.
just
fine,
late fees.
overdues.
Just late fees. Yeah, the existing policy is something like fines under $5 can just be wiped out, you just ignore them. Fines over, and the reason that we needed to change it is because the $5 block limit is no longer universal. Now that people can do $5, $10, $15 block limits. So,
What if we do where we call the other libraries and ask? No?
You don't want to do
The
that.
other day, and I called their library and they very.
Well, that could
nicely
be
said,
your-
"Let's take the $10 off."
But that could,
that could be your policy.
that would require us to call the library, the other library, every time a new patron comes in and applies for a card and they have fines. It also, you'd run into a lot of the time, there's a lot of libraries that are closed at random times.
But then they can also delete the person at the same time. They take out their fine and then you wouldn't have to do reciprocal deletion. They just boom, take them out. That doesn't sound good.
No, I see what you mean, though. It would kind of,
But then like it's for Peoria, if they owe you $30, how do you guys feel about losing your $30?
well, that's
Well,
why
that's
it's
would
a
be a
vote among
discussion,
members.
yeah.
But they're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, you're not, if they pay that $30 to Dunlap, you're not sending it to Peoria. You're keeping it at Dunlap.
Yeah.
Fines don't get sent back.
Okay.
And see, like at our self-check, they can pay it to our
See,
self-check.
we don't have pay on our self-check.
Yeah.
I'm so
Right.
glad we don't.
Right. So,
Because that would be huge as far as.
right.
Money.
So what
Maybe
should we
I think this would
take?
be
Yeah, I
I'd
think
prefer
the
to table
discussion is
this one
too
until the next
hefty.
meeting.
Okay.
Personally, I'd like
Yeah,
to. but that's up to
I would
everyone.
like the discussion not to be shorter,
Yeah.
to be shortened because of time. Like,
Something to think about.
Yeah, give
Yeah, no,
everybody
absolutely.
something, so when we
Think about
meet
it.
again, everybody,
think about
you know.
we
have
got
a-
2 done. 2
There
of
was
the
a lot of
3. I'm
discussion about this
pleased.
policy.
Yeah, we've gone back and forth on it several
For
times.
months.
Okay, so
Maybe thought about just upping the amount again instead of 5.
we,
So that's one of the options.
other options are just upping the amount, saying something about whatever the block limit is, saying something about,
I mean, we all hated it the first time. You said we could
right.
do it
So,
just for anything.
but I mean, the other option, it could say, if the patron is in good standing, if they're just delinquent but not barred, there's other potential options conceivably out there. This is the one that the subcommittee kind of landed on that had kind of the most sort of universal acceptance in the subcommittee. But
The easiest one to stay most conforming to the old version of the policy would changing it to like your like they were saying, your fine block, which would be 5, 10, 15, or 20. But it's up.
so, but there's many potential discussions and ways you could go, I guess, with it. So, okay, so.
There's something on the table. Let's play.
Who wants to do the motion?
I'll let Nick
So
do
you're
the
just-
motion.
I'm sorry, you're skipping everything.
Oh,
else on
sorry.
the Agenda?
Oh, my
No,
God.
we have to do the, well, yeah, that's why.
Okay,
we were
yeah,
like
thank
skipping
you.
policy.
There was other stuff. Okay, which will be very quick, thank you. I got distracted, I'm sorry. Okay,
So we're tabling this follow
Ye-
up now?
Yes, but thank you very much for the discussion on the other two. I really appreciate that. So we will continue with those and see what we can do about passing them up to users group for online discussion and voting if possible. And then we will realistically probably be revisiting this one in November or no, maybe September. I think we have this again in September. Okay, so very quickly, membership updates. Flanagan is almost finished with their cataloging, so they will in theory be coming online sometime soon. The board has voted to accept Astoria as a new member, so they will also be joining us. They're, looks like they will probably be beginning cataloging like end of the summer or early fall, something like that, assuming they, all goes well for them with their Rails automation grant. Big one for purposes of delivery labels. Mercer Carnegie Public Library District has changed its name. They are now Edwards River PLD. Another reason that when you're looking up your route numbers, you should look at those official library names on your thing. Yes?
Okay, so if I printed the list last Friday, does it say Mercer, does it say Edwards?
I don't know exactly.
We had a discussion Monday, wasn't it, though?
Yeah, so you may want
to officially change.
I-
Yeah.
You can also
So-
just,
Make it,
white it
Yeah.
out. White it out.
Along with printing the list,
Mhm.
they did tell me in the hub that we shouldn't always rely on that it could change daily, or they may make changes in routes.
Oh.
So not to be like, this is it. to check
Right.
Once in a while.
Stay
Define once in
tuned.
a while.
Yeah, how often?
Yeah,
I mean-
we print that list
Okay.
every day.
Supposedly they're going to be communicating with Kendall
Yeah.
if there are changes. So, again, the assumption of Kendall's on a vacation for a week and the list doesn't get updated. But yeah, I mean, I think probably hopefully what he meant more was.
He said resort to using L2.
Oh.
We're supposed to use L2 every time we're filling out a transit slip.
No, but you check it periodically. But I asked him if we could have an alert in red come through our email.
I was
Something,
like,
yeah.
the recommendation is to
yeah.
print out the transit list once a month.
Yeah, running it, I think running, yeah.
Are we
And
gonna need-
I think, I would assume too, if there are somewhat major changes, like more than like one or two library changes, that Kendall would again send an email and say, we just made some major changes to the routes, you really want to print a new list. Maybe, rather
They
than
will
just
try to
monthly.
alert if we hear of them. But yeah,
Quite frankly, once a month seems.
like more than enough.
Yeah, honestly.
But
Hopefully they're not changing
we will
that.
hopefully get wind of any major changes.
If we get new libraries every month, okay.
Well, and this is kind of a new sorting method
Yeah.
for them, so it may take a little bit to kind of shake out and see how it works for them. But Robert was saying that by doing it this method at one of the other hubs that uses it, it went from taking him like 3 minutes, I think he said, to sort of create at our hub to like a minute and a half at another. So it should significantly streamline the process for them. Hopefully. That's the motivation behind it, and hopefully that will, help. Our next, I was going to offer the option of, time to talk about your summer reading program. I think with the time crunch, we probably won't do that today. I have heard a lot of great things. Given that everyone's summer reading plans are probably pretty much set by this point in the year, though, if you do want to share them with me, though, I would be interested in maybe creating a space or even just a little, putting it in a newsletter or something, what you did this year and what your successes were, and programs that you would never in a million years do again, or programs that you totally want to do every year from now on. I would be interested in creating some way for you to share that information. So if you do have things, and even if it's from your perspective in circulation going, oh my goodness, I hope the children's department doesn't do this next year. I'll find a tactful way to talk about that and share it. And I can anonymize you if you want, but I would be interested in being sort of a little bit of a hub for information about, cool programs and cool projects you've done, more Circ specific, but if you do have other things that you're, involved with in other departments and stuff, I'm still interested in hearing about. Like if you do a food for fines, or you do a, I don't know, wear a crazy costume to the library for 10 cents off your fine balance. I don't know what you do, but whatever you do, I'd be interested in it. So our next committee meeting is September 12th. I'm
And
sorry.
we're now adjourned.
Thank you very, very much. I'm going to stop the recording.
And you are having started school for times May 19th
Are you?
to the 24th.